It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here. My name's Josh Schneider. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at a local company called Power DMS, now part of a broader company called NeoGov based out of LA. That's not particularly relevant. The reason I'm here, I think, is because I'm on the alumni board, and this is Alumni Weekend here at Rollins College. So it's a great honor to be in the room with so many distinguished alumni from Rollins and Crummer, and so a real pleasure to be here with all of you. I also had the privilege of working here at Rollins for a number of years, and I worked in the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship, and we put on this competition every year. It has a very special place in my heart. I see a lot of familiar faces who've been affiliated with the competition for a number of years, and it's just a real privilege to be here. To see how this competition has grown and evolved over the years is really a treat, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later as the judges are deliberating, I believe. We have Sachin Jaitley, who coincidentally was the first one of the two co-founders of the company that won the competition the first year I was helping to run it. And so he'll be joining us via Zoom. We'll be talking to him about his experience in the competition, what's transpired in his life since then, how that work plan competition helped to transform his business, and then his take on how things have come so far. One final announcement: as you watch here tonight, we ask you to put your judges' caps on because at the end, there will be a QR code, and we are going to collect a fan favorite vote from the crowd. Again, a real pleasure to be back here. I'm just so honored that I was asked to come up and just say a few words, and also my privilege and honor to introduce the executive director of the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship here at the Crummer Graduate School of Business at Rollins College, a very long title that I'm very glad I don't have to use anymore. Dr. Pete McAlinden.
Thanks, brother. Good evening, everyone. As Josh said, I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship. It is so nice to finally be back here in person after 3 years of not being able to do so. And boy, what a year it's turned out to be. 83 companies applied to this year's venture plan. That's twice as many as last year. And the quality of company is certainly increasing. So our startup community, our ecosystem, it's working, it's running well, and it's our opportunity to make sure it has enough fuel and enough oil to continue to build strength. Who do we serve? All of Central Florida. So Orange County, Osceola, Polk, all the way to Volusia, Brevard County, a lot of companies peppered throughout Central Florida. And it's really our opportunity here tonight to help them understand what they're doing and to help them grow. And I'd like to thank Orange County. They've been a great supporter of ours for this venture plan in particular. A lot of our other programs that we support through the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship. And it's great to have Mayor Demings, Roseanne Harrington, and Martha Lee Irizarry, I apologize, Martha Lee, if I pronounced your name wrong there, help us make sure that the venture plan is as successful as it can be. So with that, what did we put these companies through? These 83 companies actually went through a stage of judging to get down to 16 companies. And we had a whole host of judges, mentors, everyone take a look at the applications just to make sure that the companies that were moving through the system were the best ones that we could find here in Central Florida. After those 16 companies were identified, we brought in a different group of judges to help evaluate them. Each step along this process, we wanted to make sure they had mentors, they had proper feedback, and they had a way forward even if they didn't progress through this competition. So it's very important that anybody who enters this competition has a way through the rest of our ecosystem, even if they don't make it to the semifinals or finals. So, and of course, from the 16, we end up with the 3 that we'll hear from tonight. So the 3 most exciting companies from the judges, the mentors, and everything are well represented here tonight. And with all those different judging rounds that we had, all the different mentors that we had over 60 people participate. So really happy about that. And you get plugged into the community. Where do all these applicants, where do all these mentors and judges come from? Great organizations out in our community. So I won't list them here now, but they're available through our website and the QR code through the digital download of the event tonight. So thank you all these sponsors, all these great groups that really help us bring these entrepreneurs to the fore. I'd like to thank Vinvello, an early stage fund that was started here over 10 years ago, because the winner of tonight's competition will be eligible for $25,000 from Vinvello. So we hope that whoever wins tonight will take advantage of the opportunity to get additional investment from Vinvello. Also, we have CEO Nexus, which is a CEO roundtable group that has offered 3 seats, one for each one of the companies tonight, to participate in the CEO roundtable groups that are here in Central Florida. So just a great opportunity to stay connected, to stay in the ecosystem. I'd like to thank our board of advisors. What a great group to have steer our efforts at the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship. Mike Gallagher, our board chair, works tirelessly to help connect our entrepreneurs in our classroom to those in the community. And you see it's kind of a list of who's who in the entrepreneurship community here. I'd like to thank our financial contributors as well. It's very important that we raise money for entrepreneurs, we get them connected to sources of funds to continue to grow. Jim Barnes, I'd like to thank you for all of your help and dedication over multiple years of helping with this venture plan competition. Very, very helpful. So we have tonight a total of $150,000 in prizes. $85,000 of it is in cash, $65,000 of it is in kind. That in kind is probably a lot higher than that, but we'll see over time. The Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship, it's important that what we learn in the community is brought into the classroom, and what we learn into the classroom is taken out into the community. Early stage companies need great people to help them grow. Those are our students. Those are the folks in our ecosystem. If we can keep them connected, we have great programs to support them. So whether you're in the classroom or the community, we have a way to get you connected. Some of our programs include mentoring, internships. We have a student-led and student-run moving service here on campus. Entrepreneurial Scholar of Distinction, so entrepreneurs who like finance can actually work with some of our local funds, many of whom are represented here tonight in the judging panel. And we have a management exec ed opportunity for those executives as they continue to grow and want to continue to learn about entrepreneurship at Crummer. So it's all about bridge building, classroom to community. And no one does that better than Harvey Massey, a gentleman that I'd like to honor tonight, recognize tonight, is a gentleman who is the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. Harvey was our past chair of our Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship Advisory Board. And if you knew Harvey, you knew how passionate he was about growing business in Central Florida and how supportive he was and how kind he was. So tonight I'd like just to take a minute to recognize his efforts and honor him. And this is a great quote that he often cited: "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." So ponder that a second, and that certainly represents Harvey to us here. So talking about great men, I would like to welcome up Roy Reed to give a 15 or 20 minute presentation on leadership and trust. Please help me welcome Roy to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. In 1964, North America suffered the most devastating earthquake in recorded history. At 9.2 on the Richter scale, it lasted about 4 minutes, but the damage it did was severe. It ripped through most of Alaska, causing great damage to the infrastructure, to the homes, and to everything else in its path. What's interesting to note is that the earthquake is responsible for 131 deaths. That being said, only 9 people died in the 4 minutes during the actual earthquake itself. The remaining 122 people died in the ensuing tsunamis in the days and weeks and months that followed. They say that the aftershock of this earthquake could be felt in Louisiana. Why I bring that up is that when we go through traumatic events, when we go through challenging stations in life, it's often not the event itself, but the after effects that have the most damage or impact. And we have to be ready for those things. We have to prepare for those things. The other interesting fact about the 1964 earthquake lies in the reconstruction that occurred, because when the planners got together and started looking at what they needed to do, they discovered that the state of Alaska had moved 50 feet. So what does that mean? That means you can't build where you were before because it's not there. And that's where our society is today. That's where our workforce is today. Those are the problems we have to solve as a community, and you're the world changers that get to do that. And we have to be about that work. I want to personalize this just a little bit more and talk about my own personal earthquake. It happened 1,398 days ago, but who's counting? I woke up in the middle of the night. I had the worst pain I'd ever felt, as if someone had punched a hole through my chest and was squeezing the life out of my heart. I woke up because I'd fallen asleep on the couch watching a movie, not an uncommon occurrence at the Reed house. I ran in the bedroom and woke my wife up. It was about 2 in the morning. I said, I think you need to take me to the emergency room. I'm having a heart attack. We jump in the car and we head that way, and I have a stroke on the way, so now I'm totally non-responsive. So my wife gets to the emergency room. She has to get a nurse to get out, help her drag my body into the emergency room to figure out what's going on. Fortunately for me, one of the nurses recognizes it's not a heart attack. It's an acute aortic dissection, which means that my aorta is splitting open from the carotid artery down to the root. The surgeon drew this picture to illustrate that. I was in surgery for 6 hours. They had to completely reconstruct the aorta, so everything that's shaded in that drawing is now synthetic material. After 6 hours of surgery, they decided that the damage and that loss of oxygen was so great that I needed to be put into a coma. So this is me in the ICU for a week, for 1 week. And if you've ever woken up from a coma, which I don't know that anyone here has, it's a little bit like waking up in the middle of a plane crash. You got all these people standing around you, you're hooked up to all these machines, and what are they telling you to do? Calm down. I have not been asleep for a week. In my mind, I've been experiencing things that were terrifying for a week. I couldn't find my family. I was lost. But when I woke up, despite the idea that was being whispered around Advent Health, where I work, by the way, that there was no prognosis for a positive outcome, that if I survived, I probably suffered enough brain damage that I would need full-time nursing care. And yet when I woke up, I had all my faculties. I tell people that it's really kind of a story of mission, medicine, and miracles. All three of them had to be perfectly at work for me to have survived and to be in the condition I'm in today. I also tell people that I've been there, I've done that, and I got the t-shirt to show for it. So this was a gift from my best friend who showed up one day and put the drawing of the heart on the front side and the words Mission, Medicine, and Miracles on the back side. It's the t-shirt that my wife and I wear now when we do our 5Ks together. And it's important to understand when you go through something like this, you've got to recognize what's most important in life. Why do we do what we do? This is my why. My wife, Kim, and my 4 kids. She's the hero of the story in everything that she's done that night and done since then. But I tell you that story too because I had to change a lot of what I did. I had to transform in what I did. And I've been talking about trust for the better part of my 30-year career. But what my experience told me, what this traumatic event taught me, and the after effects was that I had to lean even more into trusting myself to do the things that need to be done. I had to become more trustworthy in the way I lived my life. I had to change the routine of my life. I had to lean into more ideas about how do I build the integrity that I need to have. Integrity is really 2 ideas. One is living by a set of ethical behavior, but there's also a consistency that we need to have in our life to live out integrity. And that's where we build resilience. And as business owners, as founders, We're going to be challenged to do that. So how do we build that integrity? And the other aspect of trustworthiness that I want to share is the idea of attitude. You set the stage for everything that happens in your organization with the attitude that you walk into every day. My purpose in life was transformed by this experience. Today I'm about 4 things: love people, be grateful, give generously, and make a difference. And it's that idea of gratitude that really allows your attitude to transform your brain and the way you do life. I'd encourage you every day when you wake up to write down 3 things that you're grateful for and review those same 3 things before you go to bed every night. It sets the stage for what you need to be as a leader. What does resilience and fortitude look like? Well, for me, it's this. This is finishing my first half marathon 2 years ago. And I've done 5 since. And that's part of that commitment. It's part of that new routine. It's part of the expectation I have of myself to do the things that matter most. In most of the races that I participate in, I'm with my wife in what we do. And it's important as leaders to understand that not only do we need to build trustworthiness with ourselves, but we need to build it with all of the people around us. We don't accomplish great things in life by ourselves. We are wired and created for relationships. And it's those relationships that matter as we build a business and as we build a community together. I love the idea of recognizing Harvey. If anyone fostered relationships in community, it was Harvey Massey. And all of us have benefited from Harvey and other founders in this community that have transformed lives with what they've been given in terms of the trust that other people put in them. So there's 4 guiding principles to transformational trust that I want to share with you today. The first is, well, let me say this. People are starting to recognize this now, right? In business, people start looking at what the hard skills versus the soft skills are. And about 2 years ago, as Accenture was putting their annual report together, they made this recognition that the trust is anything but soft. Because there are measurable outcomes that come from building trust as a culture in the organizations that we manage and run. And the day in and day out differences that we're going to have, challenges that we're going to have are far easier to work out when your people feel that they live and work in a culture of trust. So what are these 4 guiding principles? First, it's build trust from the inside out. You can't expect others to live a trusting way if you don't live it yourself first. I talked earlier about being trustworthy. That's the idea of trusting yourself. Not only do you build confidence when you do that, but when you become more trustworthy, it has an impact on everyone around you. They notice this. The things that you do need to be consistent with the things that you say. Second is that we take responsibility for our relationships. We don't rent them, we own them. They need to be meaningful, not transactional. Invest in the relationships that you have, time and energy. Be present with the people in your relationships. Next is that we keep our promises and we communicate consistently. Trust is built on 2 major drivers, emotion and experience. It's usually emotion that's the first triggers that give people an idea of whether or not they want to trust us or whether we want to trust them. Those first impressions, the attitude I talked about earlier. But over time, it's the consistency of being dependable, giving a consistent, reliable performance. And so we want to keep those promises. Why communicate consistently? Because you're going to mess up. You're going to drop the ball. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to miss a deadline. If you've communicated consistently, you are managing expectations. You're keeping the connection with the relationship and taking it from transactional to meaningful. And people who trust you give you the benefit of the doubt so that when you do make a mistake, your recovery is easier, faster, and a whole lot less expensive. Lastly, we need to be a good steward of trust. Trust is a precious gift that we're given. And we're given that gift, we have influence to do something with it. So the first side of stewardship of our trust is, what are you doing with that gift? How are you making a difference? Who are you investing in? Who are you creating a legacy for down the road? What tree are you planting that others are going to benefit from in a different lifetime? The other side of stewardship is, who are you giving your trust to? They say that you're the 5 people you hang out with the most. Are those people pouring positive things into you? Are they a good representation of who you are? Those are important questions to ask. Hold them accountable to these same high ideas that we talk about. I have to share one more story. This is my daughter, Faith. Faith is the youngest of 4 children and the only girl, which means she's got me completely wrapped around her finger. This is the best picture ever taken of my daughter because it reflects the personality that she has. She's 21 now. This is 6. There's a consistency between the two. I came home one Friday night, and my daughter Faith had turned our dining room into a bracelet factory. And if you have kids, you know that this is an OSHA violation. She was so excited, though. She came and met me at the door. She had a bracelet in her hand. She said, "Daddy, I made this bracelet for you. Will you wear it?" And of course, if you have a child who makes something for you and asks you to wear it, you have one answer. And that answer is, yes, absolutely. And it's Memorial Day weekend, so it's a long weekend. So we go to the church picnic, and we go to the mall, and we go to the movies, and I become what you might call, or it's technically show and tell. Everywhere we went, Faith dragged me by the hand. She showed off the bracelet. She talked about the beads, the fact that my name was in it. It was great. Tuesday morning, I get up. I got to go to work. I got to put a suit on. I put the bracelet on the dresser, head out the door. I come home that night, and I'm a little consternated because I discovered that OSHA did not get the memo. The bracelet factory is still underway. And my daughter's still at it. And I'm in the kitchen with my wife making dinner, and she walks into the kitchen with another bracelet, different colored beads, and she says to me, "Daddy, if you didn't like the other bracelet, will you wear this one?" Yeah, that's devastating. Here I am, this expert in communications and relationships. In fact, I had just landed my first national speaking opportunity for this very topic, and I'd blown it with my 6-year-old daughter. So I left the kitchen, I went in the bedroom, I put the bracelet on, and I wear it every day. This is it. This is version 3.0. We've had a couple accidents along the way. But I wear it for 2 reasons, and I want you to think about this as I wrap up. Number 1, because I told her I would. And number 2, it reminds me every day that all the little things that I say or do are either contributing to or taking away from the trust that other people have in me. That as big and sweeping of an idea as trust is, as transformational as trust is in our lives, it all comes down to the little things that we do. So think about that when you make a passing comment. When somebody brings you something that to them is everything and to you it might be just one more thing. Put that balance in. Have the humility to step back, recognize it's not all about me, and it's all about that relationship that I need to build. And so with that, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I want to wish all the teams the best of luck tonight. You guys are awesome. You are world changers. And I want to watch this community transform as we all work harder to build trust and build the kind of relationships that can transform the community. Thank you very much.
Roy, thank you so much. Really appreciate all your insights, certainly your leadership in our community. And actually, you know, the words of wisdom that you impart every time that I hear you, even though it's the same talk, I take away something differently. So thank you so much for that. So I'd like to introduce now a few folks that helped me get all of this together. And Joey Glenn, if you'd raise your hand, you'll meet Joey in just a second. And Ria Tope is here somewhere. Ria, are you here? Ria, thank you. So 2 of the world's greatest graduate assistants that are working with me at the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for your help, and certainly all the things that you do to help make this venture plan the success that it is. I also want to give a special thanks to Mike Kazassis, who is here in the front row, Michael Blackburn, who's here in the front row, Kate and Carolyn, who are probably out doing a whole bunch of other things out there, helping support in many, many different ways. They're from our marketing team. So all the emails you get, they have my name on it, but I don't have to send them. So, yes, 4 of them in like the last 10 minutes, I'm thinking. And Ralph Leonard, I'd like to thank you for all of your help, another past graduate assistant at the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship. I love how we continue to build from within, get out in the community, and have them come back here. So thank you all for that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the judges for tonight, and then we'll get on with the show. I'm going to invite Joey up in just a second to bring on the first team so we can get started. Diane unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. She called me about an hour ago saying that she wasn't going to be able to make it. Jeff Goldstein is here from Arsenal Venture Partners. Richard Kersey is here from Vinvello. Dennis Poppy is here from actually Seed Funders Orlando, but you'll see his name on a whole bunch of other things that support entrepreneurs here in town. Jason Eichenholz, who's worked both sides of this stage as a company that was a winner not too many years ago and now is a judge. Jason, welcome, from Luminar Technologies. Ben Potts, again, you'll see his name everywhere, but primarily associated with Deep Work Capital, and Richard Powell. Now I have a bit of information to share with you on Richard. He has attended every venture plan competition since its inception except for one. So you certainly win the award of having the greatest experience in being able to help us get these companies off the ground and get them a big fat check. So thank you for that. So with that, Joey, come on up, and we'll get Soarce in here to present. Are they out here? Okay.
All right, hi everyone. My name's Joey. I'm a GA here, and it's been an unbelievable opportunity to work here under Pete. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first presenter of tonight, which is going to be Derek Saltzman and Mason Mincy with Soarce. So let's give them a round of applause.
Hello everyone, my name is Mason, and we're the co-founders of Soarce, where we're on a mission to solve some of the society's biggest climate challenges today with materials powered by nature. So let's start off with the really big problem, fashion. Who would have thought? It's actually the second most polluting industry in the world because the leathers and fabrics that make all of your clothing today are all made of plastic, aka materials based off of fossil fuels, right? But it's not like apparel brands don't know this is a problem. In fact, 90% of the leading apparel brands today all have made sustainable material commitments by 2030, but they are drastically lagging behind this unprecedented level of demand. Only 0.2% of all materials in fashion are bio-based, right? But we wanted to dig deeper into why this is a problem. It's a problem because most natural alternatives on the market lack in 3 key areas. Either they're cost prohibitive, they use some exotic plant that isn't scalable, or the performance specs don't meet synthetics. So what are brands left with? Well, they take these natural alternatives and they'll fill them with a bunch of plastic or toxic treatments that we don't want in our body, and now government regulations are forcing these brands to change. So we set out to solve that problem. Our team of material scientists and nationally recognized designers is turning seaweed into radically sustainable yet high-performing leathers and fabrics that brands can add as part of their toolkit. Over 40 million tons of seaweed is produced every year. Farmers, waste management producers have been blowing up our inbox saying, please take this to make material out of it. And we chose seaweed for a few key reasons. One, very few resources. It needs no land, water, or pesticides to grow. It removes CO2 20 times faster than trees, and even continues to grow once you cultivate it from the farm. But we didn't want to create just another green product. We wanted to create a technically advanced material solution that is holistic. So we developed a proprietary nanocomposite we called ceramic, right, which we make into the leathers and fibers brands can use to make clothing. And our material has unprecedented properties you would never expect from natural materials. Fire resistance, UV IR shielding, which means surfaces are measured to be 10 to 15 degrees cooler in ambient temperatures compared to traditional leathers today, all without using any plastics or any toxins. Now, we have brands from luxury fashion very excited about what we're working on for a few key reasons. They get this source from the sea, ocean to outfit narrative they've never had before, but they also get performance gains. Now imagine your leather bag or laptop case in the sun, your phone doesn't heat up anymore. And we've been able to achieve this luxurious white color with using zero plastics, zero toxins, and no bleaching agents, which is the first in the industry. And after we've capitalized on the apparel market, we're gonna scale the same exact value proposition to the automotive and upholstery market after getting the necessary certification. Now, we've had immense interest from brands in the furniture industry because they're marked up 20 to 30% extra cost on their leathers to get fire and UV resistance, which is required for all the commercial buildings today. We actually help them reduce their logistics costs, help them meet their sustainability goals without sacrificing on performance. And we have brands in the automotive industry asking for the same exact value propositions.
So let's kind of talk about how it actually works. Well, first, we extract a biopolymer or biomaterial out of the actual seaweed. We then enhance that biomaterial with a proprietary plastic-free mineral blend. This blend is what gives it its performance properties like the UV, fire resistance, IR shielding. We then take that white goop or white solution you see in the photo and extrude those into a variety of different form factors, whether it be a fiber for technical textiles or poured into a mold for leather goods. Now, what are the first couple markets we're accessing? Well, first, it's leather accessories. So think of bags, belts, shoes, different types of small leather accessories, as well as looking at the technical workwear and outdoor activewear. Now, these are individuals like power line workers, firefighters, outdoor enthusiasts, and they need performance out of their garments. So they're not willing to sacrifice on performance. So we see our product being the perfect fit, bridging that aspect of sustainability with performance. Now let's go a little bit about the business model. Right now we sell our leather material at a middle market premium, where we sell it around $75 per square yard or per square meter. Now, our fiber technology works a little bit different. We work off of a licensing model. So we license our technology out around an 8% royalty on net sales. And to give you an understanding of the ecosystem of textiles, a large-scale brand usual minimum order quantity is around 200,000 units, which is 200,000 yards. And that kind of equates to around 1,700 square yards a month. So kind of going about what we're at right now. Well, recently we graduated from the legacy of Adidas, tech accelerator based here in Lincoln. We received a small investment from them, as well as we received a $50,000 grant from the National Science Foundation to commercialize our technology. We're also in talks with a variety of different brands, from small scale to large scale brands. Some of the current conversations we're having right now is with Nicholas Kirkwood, Alpine Stars, AS by DF, and Pangaea. These are small scale brands that don't have a lot of decision makers in the company, so we're able to get our product in there and actually have them do product iteration much faster than these large scale brands. That's not to say we aren't talking to big brands. Right now we're on communication with Puma and Polo Ralph Lauren's innovation teams. Polo's looking at it from, funny enough, baby clothing. Most of us, we didn't know this, but baby clothing has to be fire resistant. And Puma's looking at it more from the actual motorsporting side. Now, a big company we want to highlight here, which we've been having really great conversations with, is Toyoshima. They're a global textile manufacturer based in Japan that does around $2 billion in revenue each year and has over 800 brands underneath them. Currently, we're developing a partnership right now with them, though we're going to commercialize our fiber through them and have them be the main distributor in the Japanese market. We're also doing life cycle assessments on our material. So we're working with a company called Viable Gear, where we're actually shipping our material to Maine, and they're going to be putting in marine ecosystems to see how it decomposes in the actual environment. So kind of going with first paid pilot. So our first paid pilot is with a man named Nicholas Kirkwood, world-renowned fashion designer, sold his company to Louis Vuitton a couple years ago. And this paid pilot works on a variety of different ways. First, we have an upfront licensing fee of a specific amount. We're also getting a royalty on each product sold after he recuperates his CapEx cost. We're also getting co-branding, so we're going to be on the box, the shoe, and everything on the actual website. And the really good part about here is that, again, he's a world-renowned fashion designer with 20 years of experience. So sending our material to him, we're going to get really, really good feedback and be able to iterate the product quickly. Now, going through a little bit of the financials and kind of where we're at right now. Right now, we produce around 1,000 square yards per month. And that gives us the ability to ship out material to these brands, do a little bit of collaboration and prototyping to figure out what they truly need. Now, moving into 2024, we look to scale up and be able to become a small-scale vendor. Now, this is being able to supply these companies with a variety of our actual leather materials. And that goes in from a small-scale lab scale setup to a large-scale batch process. And then moving into 2025, we look to go from a batch-to-batch process to a roll-to-roll process. That allows us to increase throughput tremendously and drive down costs, as well as we're looking to acquire our first licensing deal in that year, because that's when the fiber technology will be ready. Now, kind of going over where we're at right now, we are raising capital. Currently, we're raising $1.3 million. We have over 550 committed from a variety of strategic investors. And that's mainly to capitalize and finalize a variety of milestones over the next 15 to 12 months. And that's finalizing our research and development to acquire all the IP. Currently, we have a composition of matter patent. We're looking to get subsequent methods of manufacturing patent on the fiber as well as the leather material. We also want to downsize the amount of brands we're working with right now. We have over 20 brands that have come into our pipeline organically, and we want to shave that down to around 6 brands that are going to be perfect champions of our product, that are going to give us feedback quickly and be able to actually commercialize it in a timely manner. We're also doing third-party material certifications like we talked about earlier. We want to go into those more advanced markets, such as the upholstery and automotive spaces, and they need the certifications. And basically, all that culminates into the end of this year where we're looking to get a series of POs from the brands that we're working with right now so we can raise capital and bring in the equipment necessary in 2024 to be a vendor for them. Now, kind of finalizing, and just summing up for the team, Mason and I have been in the startup ecosystem for the past 7 years. We've worked as material researchers and NSF-backed researchers. We've also worked in the Blackstone Launchpad as business development coaches, and we put together a great team. We originally brought on Nicholas Kirkwood, again, a world-renowned fashion designer, sold his company Louis Vuitton. After seeing the product, he wanted to join the team full-fledged, as well as we brought on Mary Lundahl, probably the top Finnish researcher in the world in this space. She has the most cited papers when it comes to biorefining and turning cellulosic fibers into textiles. And she actually she's been following our company for the past 2 years and wanted to join the company 2 months ago, sorry. And please join us on this textile revolution by starting at the source. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Thanks, Source. I want to turn the attention to the judges for their questions.
Derek, nice presentation. I mean, you came right at it with a lot of issues. You guys have been in the industry for how long?
Like the textile industry specifically. So we started our first company. It was an advanced textile company. We sold to Red Bull, other companies. I also worked for the Textile Exchange, where it was my job to consult with Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and I had to interview all the startups working on these problems. So that's why I specifically seen what struggles these brands were having, increasing their uptake of these materials, but also the struggles on the startup side and mistakes they've made from a manufacturing perspective. So roughly around 6 years.
So you're in the right place. What you're trying to do is by no means a simple task. I'm not trying to take whatever you do to seaweed and whatever else, God bless you, I'm sure it works. But breaking into that industry and trying to take someone who has a Louis Vuitton purse and say it's made out of seaweed from Soarce is a world of difference. Okay, people will buy Louis Vuitton for whatever reason, pay any amount of money. How do you get and manufacture those products? You talk through it, you talk fast through a lot of things, but how do you get the manufacturers of those particular products to really pay attention to what it is you're doing?
So great question. Do you mind if I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so approaching is from 2 unique angles, right? From the manufacturing perspective, it's understandable how it is an endeavor to do. I think where we have a strong competitive advantage is our 2 strong partners, Tavistock and Toyoshima. So for example, our main competitor, Alginate, they struggled for years to get manufacturing up because you need that strategic manufacturer to start. Toyoshima is just on the bench waiting for us to be ready. And they are a CVC that would invest plus partner and be a customer. So that gives us a major competitive advantage. Tavistock also allows us to offset a lot of the CapEx costs for that initial factory. And they build factories in Mexico and all across the world. So we've already had great conversations with them around setting up that manufacturing in Mexico, and we would pay much higher salaries than what they offer there. And then from a awareness standpoint, we're working with 2 organizations, the Material Innovation Initiative and my previous job, the Textile Exchange, where we're strategically working with them to make more awareness of us as a company. But the uptake in terms of these materials currently is just not high enough, and we've seen just tremendous demand without doing any marketing.
Yeah.
When you say tremendous demand because of sort of the back end side of it, fireproof, those kind of things, and not damaging the environment, or what else is that attraction? I think when you get into it, all this
Climate change.
stuff that runs around on a day-to-day basis. But for the most part, most of us really don't care about it. We care about it as long as it affects you and everybody else, but not me. So I'm going to leave here tonight. I'm going to get in my car and go where I'm going. If I've got to get on an airplane and go somewhere, I'm going. And I'm dumping all kinds of carbon all over the universe, right? And most people just continue to go about their lives. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. I just don't know how you take that product, the idea from what you have, and bring it to where you want it to be. And now you have some good partners, that's right, but can they get that product in the hands? You talk about the Japanese company that's in front of this. Can they go to Louis Vuitton? Can they go to a big product manufacturer and say, you need to use this? Or is Louis Vuitton going to say, no, I want that leather that's over there?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So Toyoshima, the only other company they've done this strategic partnership with is a company called Spiber. 10 years ago, huge R&D company, so we'd be the second company they would do that with. And they have such a strong connection with a lot of these brands that there's so many regulations that are tying to this. So I agree, consumers, they say we care about this, but it's the brands that are being forced to do this. So this isn't really a problem of, I want to do good for the environment. This is a regulatory problem. So that's really how we plan on being differentiated. And at the same time, Ralph Lauren even said, oh, we thought this was just a sustainability play. But now we have fire resistance without using halogens, bromines, and all these toxic treatments that are regulated. That's a huge selling point we've encountered with a lot of companies. And that's how we differentiate ourselves with all the other green stuff in the market.
Okay, good. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure thing.
Good presentation. Representation, guys.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just double click for me a little bit on you're raising $1.5 million. Seems
Correct.
a little small for everything you're trying to accomplish over the next 18 months. And where exactly are you on some aspect of this being truly differentiable, patentable, to be able to prevent somebody that has a lot more money than $1.3 million from reverse engineering even, right, and or replicating what you've done. So just walk through that a little bit, and seems like you need some more money, but help us understand more what you're doing with the 1.3 and what exactly you feel like that will get you.
Yeah, no. So to tackle the IP question first is one, we currently have a composition of matter patent. So basically all the constituent materials that go into actually making the solution, if you want it from a material science point, we can take that material and actually vet and see, hey, is there any weight percent of that in there, and then that infringes on our patent. So that's one kind of protective moat we've built. Now for specifically the 1.3, well, that's going to get us the ability to kind of work with the brands that we're working with right now, give them material, supply them, and get all the testing done necessary. So we have the product ready for POs kind of at the beginning of 2024. Realistically, this 1.3 is mainly to get us to the final point of testing and validation. And then we are going to be looking for a subsequent round after that to bring in all the industrial equipment to then be an actual vendor to these companies in middle of 2024.
So I'm going to ask a question that kind of combines two concepts here. And I believe Lululemon has a product that's seaweed-based that has it out today. And so I'm trying to understand what's unique about your offering compared to what they have. And then how do you protect a brand that's already in this space, going after this space?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think the best way to approach that is really from the technical properties of the material. So like you mentioned, this material Lululemon has, it is a seaweed-based product, but it also is combined with different polyesters, nylons, and polyurethanes. And from a regulatory standpoint, they're really pushing for these materials to be almost 90 to 100% plastic-free. So our material doesn't require any of those materials. But at the same time as well, we also can compete in other markets, right, where we don't have to compete strictly in fashion. We've already had a lot of interest from motorsport brands, automotive companies that need a certain level of fire resistance. And then we've also had interest from our investors to just take the formula we have today, add it to paints to make energy-efficient homes. Right? And that's just, they can take that chemistry as they would, and they can commercialize that, and we would just get that revenue. But we don't have to make a completely new product for that to be applied in those markets. It's really the chemistry we can take advantage of.
Hey guys, good presentation. You started out with the fashion as kind of a problem, but then during the presentation you showed the leather application, particularly automobile. And I would think that that application is much more challenging in terms of UV resistance, wear, so I'm wondering about how you look at those two markets and the ability of the material in terms of testing and achieving the performance necessary. Are there really two different markets, two different kind of material qualities, and what are you thinking about in terms of revenue kind of in those two areas in the coming years?
So to tackle the first part of the question, we chose apparel first because it's the lowest hanging fruit. There's not a lot of decision makers to be able to get our material into the door and actually utilized in a product. And we do agree with you that the amount of testing necessary to get into an automotive product, it takes a long time. So one of the companies in the space right now, NFW, which is probably the largest competitor right now that's doing this, it took them about 3 years to go from the ideation phase to finally being implemented into a BMW product. And we see the same exact type of roadmap for us. So you want to be able to commercialize the technology in apparel first and de-risk it and be able to get all the IP as well as all the data necessary to then go to those larger companies and say, hey, we've built out the manufacturing, we've built out the supply chain, now we're ready to come to you as a vendor later on down the road.
So great presentation. I'd like to go through some of the numbers a little bit. You talked about the 1.3 million raise.
Oh.
So go back. So you're saying by 2027 you're going to do 60 million in revenue.
Yep, that's what we project.
If with everything you do, you're going to get to 60 million in revenue. Why is that 60 million and not 600 million? If the need, so now I'd like to go back to that SAM and TAM you had, and I'd like to understand why it's 97 million SAM if you can do all these things. Why are you not going up in, what's making the SAM so small compared to the TAM of 68 billion? Why is so many orders of magnitude difference?
Right, so that's a good question. So I would say that's strictly because, and if you could, Derek, go back to the financial slide for a second. I'd say that's specifically because of the markets that we're focusing on in the early days. And at the end of the day, we've had this comment a lot on those numbers. We tended to make this pretty conservative because we understand from a deep tech perspective the manufacturing that's going to go into this and the CapEx associated. We wanted to be conservative with that revenue, and that's only because we're focusing on some of those initial markets in those first years. And going into 2026 to 2027, that's when we're able to start licensing the fiber, but that's still going to take time to build revenue. And getting into those more technical markets like automotive, the certification required is a large cost as well. So that's really going to play into how much revenue and how much we can produce as well.
But that would, from that perspective, as Jason said, you're coming from a perspective of if you're in a licensing field, which I think is a great place to be, much better than trying to manufacture anything. You should be able to license it and really drag that number up quite a bit.
Exactly, and that's kind of why if you see from 2025 to 2026 and then from 2024 to 2025, there is a pretty high hike in revenue generated, and that's because we open up the licensing model in the beginning of 2025 and onward on to 2027.
So there's nothing wrong with a $60 million revenue business that puts out 20 million of income. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful business. What I'd like to understand from the industry what the comps are for an exit, right? Because as an investor, I'm going to either get profit sharing back of that 20 million, or you guys are going to exit at some point. That's what investors are looking for.
Yep, of course.
And so looking at that, my guess is a comp is 1x revenue.
Essentially, yeah.
Right?
From that perspective.
It could also be 10x of profits. Those are sort of two rules of thumbs that you could use. I'll let the other VCs on the panel kind of talk about that, but so it's going to be somewhere between 60 and 200 million, depending on if you can really get net income. What are the other comps? If you hit every single thing you need to do to get to 60 million, and that's a big if, right?
Of course.
It's startup, it's hard. Yeah. Automotive, trust me, it'll be 10x harder and take 10x longer than you ever think it's going to take
autonomously,
certification.
it's tough.
Right. If you do all that, what do you think you could sell the company for?
Yeah, so I would say the best comp, sorry, is a company I had to do actually a lot of research in my previous job called Spinova. So they're out in Switzerland, and they are the only company that has had a technical exit. They IPO'd. So I mean, they're trading right now at a pretty good number per share. But there aren't many comps currently just because this industry is nascent. The past 10 years, we've only seen that exit from Spinova. And a couple other companies have had small exits, but I consider them more as like acqui-hires, so they're not true exits in the sense that I would consider from like an acquisition standpoint. So I understand your concern with how low that revenue is, but that is us being a little conservative, but then also understanding that there's just not many comps currently in the industry.
Right, and if you go back though to your TAM, it's a big number. It's a huge part of the serviceable available market. Going and saying you have 60% of the SAM. Mm-hmm. My advice to you is really to look at the difference, and if you were to do that at an actual scale, how small that bubble is, mm-hmm. and what can you do in your business model or your product offering where your SAM is now $1 billion, $2 billion, okay. $5 billion, and then the opportunities can scale significantly.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
How much have you guys raised already?
550.
That's all.
That's all.
This was in the past 2 months that we brought that in.
Yeah.
This is the first institutional round.
Correct. This
Correct.
is technically a pre-seed, so it's a little bit of a hassle, but 550 in the last couple months.
Yeah, and we work off of a rolling safe so far.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Soarce.
Cool. Thank you, judges. We appreciate it. Can I remove this?
All right, judges, thank you for your questions. Please make sure to fill out your form because the second presenter is right around the corner.
But they wanted to see me, no?
Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. I really want you guys to give a really warm welcome to Philippe Taskin with MetaHumans.
We need to do this? All right. Thank you. It's the one, right? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Philippe Tassin, and I'm the founder of MetaHumans. I'm here to share with you a vision for education. We all know that our kids are very curious, but then did you notice how curiosity plummets once they reach middle school? And that's because education and school transforms the fun of learning into effort and resistance. And without curiosity, you cannot have a will or motivation to learn. Now, imagine a place where your children and others 7 to 17 get to learn more about themselves, learn more about others, and have fun exploring the world around them, not just in technology and science, but also in practical entrepreneurship, improv, magic, or emotional management. At MetaHumans, we're creating a network of in-person education centers that brings communities together around curiosity, innovation, and human skills. Our education system is misaligned with the needs of this generation of kids. Forget the fact that employers have a hard time hiring STEM workers, or that parents don't always have access to STEM after-school education. Can you believe that almost 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet? We need to prepare our kids for the future and the near future, and if not now, when? At MetaHumans, we help children achieve their own personal best destiny by nurturing curiosity, by inspiring innovation, by solving real-life problems, by leveraging technology. And the way we do it is we create immersive learning environments. It's not about just learning one skill. We want to create an infrastructure for personal discovery, socialization, and scientific curiosity. It has to start with community. And then we have personal engagement. We have custodial engagement. We have social engagement. We add a lot of value for the kids and the families. We make it affordable through scholarship, and all this in an immersive learning environment with gamification. Parents have a lot of options out there for targeted after-school program like tutoring, math, or coding. At MetaHumans, we want to make sure that our kids master not only math and science and technology, but also soft and human skills. I'm very excited about our team. My background is in microelectronics and computer science. Carissa, our CFO, went to Rollins and brings decades of experience in commercial banking, sales, and then my mom, she also brings decades in experience in operations and finance, and of course, Dr. Sean Carlson. He has a PhD in nuclear physics and earned a MacArthur Fellowship specifically in STEM education. And I want to also say how thankful I am to have such a wonderful group of advisors who share the vision for education and share our sense of urgency, because it really takes a village. So how do we do this? Well, we embed in the community, we connect with the schools, local events, we create partnership with local organizations, Junior Achievement, or DoD Starbase. We give access to scholarship, and then that gets people in the door. Once they're in the door, everything changes. They see the experience, they see the different zones, they see the effect on the kids, and then it's all word of mouth. The parents and the kids are our biggest sales team. Every single location had to be a sound business model. Our first location just opened. We're projecting a profit in first year and $600,000 in revenue next year. We make our money through memberships and summer camps. We started in 2020. We've invested $1 million and opened our first location, 4,200 square foot, right here in Winter Park. I hope you visit. And then since we opened last November, it's been going really well. The feedback has been extremely positive. We've been onboarding more and more families every week, and we're on track to break even just before the summer, just after a few months in operation. But this is what I really wanted to show you. This right here is the map showing how far our parents are willing to drive their kids to come to MetaHumans. Last week alone, one of the parents who just drove an hour and 15 minutes one way to pick up their kids thanked us for being there. And she was very grateful. This is why we're here. We're here because it makes a difference. The kids, the parents. Kids can't wait to come back, and parents love us. This energy right here is why this year we decided to develop our franchise model. And we're investing in a franchise development so that we can start onboarding our Central Florida territories as early as next year. The real vision here is to maximize reach, maximize value for the kids. We want to, and to do that, we have to scale. And our goal is to scale to 260 locations by 2028. That will bring the franchise a revenue of $17 million. But this is only possible with your help. All of us right here, right now, we have the possibility of making this happen and really helping thousands of kids and families getting ready for the future. We need your help finding talents, partners, because this year we're investing $350,000 in franchise development so that we can start onboarding our Central Florida locations. This is it. This is our chance to really help everybody, kids first. We have a chance to shape the future, to help them get ready for the next 10 years, and we have a chance to do this together and build a strong business in the process. So help us, join us in shaping the future of our kids, and hopefully stop by the center. It's right there on Aloma Avenue, and I'll give you a tour. Oh, and then if I have time, I would like to mention Anna. Anna is one of our members. Last week, she did a 1 million cup presentation all by herself. She's 11, and we're very proud. So, all right, thank you.
All right, we're going to turn it over to our judges again for a Q&A.
Philippe, nice job. It's interesting what you want to do. I mean, your competition is huge. You're clearly not the first guys down this road. Maybe your approach is different, and maybe it's just different. You know, I don't know particularly how to evaluate, but what do you guys have in terms of experience when it comes to franchising? Because building the business for yourselves and running it is one thing. Building a business that can be franchised gets a lot more difficult.
Correct.
So where's your experience in building the whole franchising part of the business?
We have no experience in franchising. This is why we need your help, because I bet in this room we have a lot of experience in franchising. And where we're good at is finding the right partners to work with. This is the only way to go, because there are way smarter people who can help us make this a success. Our goal this year was to really prove the concept, show the vision, and show that it is a viable product.
Right. Okay. But I get it. And a lot of parents are looking for something different for their kids, and it makes sense for them. And the fact that people can drive to it or drive for a good distance and all is nice to know. People are comfortable with the process, but you really don't talk a lot about the whole concept when you talk about franchising. How are you going to franchise it? What's it going to cost to set up a franchise? I know you want help doing that, but that, right, you're really in the early stages of that, as opposed to the business, which you currently have operating. All right, it's up and running, but then to turn it into a franchise is really tough to do. So what's the financials look like? What do you expect to sell a franchise for? Do you have any thoughts on that area?
Yep, we're looking at $40,000 for a franchise fee. We'll have some income potential during the theming, because it is a themed experience, so there are some design elements that need to be pre-constructed, and that's also a possible revenue stream. And then we want to be standard for our royalties, really.
So where most startups fail, and I'll give you, your core technology, the domain that you're trying to build, you've got experience in doing that. But where most startups fail is sales and marketing, and then when you turn that into a franchising process, that gets pretty difficult. So you didn't talk much about how the rest of the world finds out about you, even in the current business, the current operation.
Right.
How do parents know that you even exist?
Word of mouth. It really is. We started with events and conventions and partnerships, and then people started coming in our centers and they just talk about it. We're all over homeschooler groups because we really help the parents. Some parents are taking their kids out of school to make them homeschooler so that they can attend the school. And we also cater to after-schoolers, of course.
Okay. How much money have you raised so far?
Zero.
Okay. And what do you think it's going to take to get you where you want it to be?
Well, it's really up to us. We're in this.
It's not going to be up to you. I mean, you're going to run out of money somewhere along the way.
Well, it's almost cash flow positive at this point. Either we're doing it organically. I would prefer doing fast because speed matters, and with the right partners. Those are my parameters. But we're in this for the long haul. This is a personal project. It's been years in the making. We're committed for sure. The money aspect, this center is set basically. It can cruise forever. Now it's really about how do we open the next one and the next one and the next one. We can do it ourselves, but it's going to take forever. Might as well just partner up and scale faster.
Okay. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Noble, certainly, and appreciate that. But as you may or may not be aware, there's a massive teacher shortage in this country. And so as you guys scale, how do you intend to find teachers willing and able to work for you? And how do you credential them? How do you validate their expertise, et cetera?
We don't hire teachers. We hire educators. One of our staff has a mechanical engineering degree, and he has passion for anything that's tinkering, 3D printing. He just loves kids. He loves to teach. Where we come in is we have our programs that are processed, organized, and they just have to deliver it. And the delivery, we're not really teaching, we're letting kids learn. We're providing learning environments. One of them is the factory, where they learn about business by running a real business. They can prototype, produce, sell. They handle the point of sale. They have to do the accounting, the project management, the packaging, customer service. It's all real. And so they learn through the environment. We're here just to guide them. And the moment we see the passion, we let them loose. We had an improv session just a couple weeks ago, and then we had a workshop scheduled afterwards. And the kids organically organized into a business. They wanted to create a custom apparel brand for their pets. And they spent 5 hours working on that, building websites, creating a brand, looking at costs, looking at products, and they did it all, and they're 11. And there was no way I could take them out and start to teach them science at this point. They were just going. So this is the kind of stuff that happens. They automatically create a cluster of creativity, curiosity, and innovation.
Yeah, so a little feedback first, then a question that I had for you, because I think the feedback is also important. So from my standpoint, love what you're addressing. I fundamentally believe in the thesis. I'm working with MIT on something that double clicks on exactly what you said about the jobs of the future, right? The jobs by 2030 and 2035, how equipped are people, both the youth, right, and elders that might be working longer for the jobs of the future, and it's a big, big gap, right? Now, even some of those jobs haven't even been created yet, right? So I believe that. I have 2 little kids, so I get the model on what you're trying to do here, and they're actually at a Montessori school, which is up on your chart. Personally, I also think you're saying you don't know what you don't know about franchising it, and there are people that have better expertise in thinking through that. So that's not as huge a concern for me. But really, this first center, that's the proof of concept, right? How many people, how many members are needed for it to break even? You said you're getting there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's great.
We could really be there already. It's just that we're overstaffed on purpose because we're using that center as an R&D center as well. Okay. But we have over 70 families right now, and we could break even at about 100. And we'll probably break even sooner because of the summer camps too, because it's a big
right. And is this a part of the model that as you look to franchise this in other areas, there's a sustainable model here for people who can market locally and or generate 75 to 100 members to run a profitable franchise location?
Yep. It seems that throughout our research, it seems that the 60 to 80 members seems to be the sweet spot in most of those educational franchises. We also are working on modular square footage so that not only we reduce the cost of setting up a new center, but also we can function with a smaller square footage. So all those things, I mean, this is our first prototype. It's a real prototype, but it's still a first prototype. We can do much better next time for sure.
And just to confirm, I just wanted to make sure, so right now you're trying to raise?
We're trying to raise money, not for that center. That center is behind us. We're trying to raise money for the franchise development specifically. We want to do all the logistics, the marketing, the legal document. We want to create really a strong support so that we're all set up, ready to go when we scale.
And that's what you're trying to raise, $350K?
That's it.
Okay.
What is the tuition?
Tuition, so they choose how many days a week they want to come, and they can spend the whole day with us. We're open 9 to 7. And so it starts at $44 a day. They can spend the whole week with us for $170 currently. So for less than $800 a month, you can spend 9 to 7, 5 days a week. Most of those members who are coming 5 days a week, they come and go. It's like an open gym. They know when the scheduled workshops are, and then they know when they have free time or when they have the clubs, and so they just come and go.
How do parents pay for this?
So we work with Step Up. We're an authorized direct billing with Step Up Scholarship. About 25% of our members are coming for free.
So it's crystal clear you're passionate about this, that you've attracted others that are passionate, and you've got an incredible team here. If you were going to summarize what's special about what you do and how you're going to clone that special thing, what's the special thing and how are you going to clone it so that this scales?
It's really we wanted to make it real. It had to be real everything. So the environment, the learning environment, the dynamics is one layer. There's a whole layer of gamification where the kids, for everything they do, they earn rewards. And the rewards help them they're motivated to finish learning a special skill. And when they learn the special skill, they get a badge, and it unlocks some credits that they can spend in custom apparel blanks or other material, right? So we built in an engine of extrinsic motivation to support their own personal motivation. We also have several zones. We have a whole section on esports, and we have a lounge in the back specifically for our teenagers to hang out, to socialize, to play games, to work, to do workshops, because cross-age activities only go so far, and a 17-year-old doesn't want to be caught alive with a 7-year-old too long. So they have their own space in the back. So
So walk me through, I understand the need. Walk me through the process if I'm a franchisee. $40K to you.
Yes.
How much square footage? How much does it cost to open a center? And how do I make money?
Yes. So it's about 40Ks, and that can change, obviously. A typical center would be between 3,000 square foot, possibly 2,500, we'll see, but 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. Right now it's 4,200 square feet. I think we can shave off at least 25% and still function the same. It would cost probably about $300,000 to $400,000 for the larger size, and we're looking at creating some modular interior design element to add the theming without construction cost. So kind of a plug and play, take over an existing space, and that would probably be around $150,000 instead. To make money, memberships and the franchise making money? Or?
Yeah, how does the franchisee who's going to spend $200K, somewhere in between,
right,
plus another, so $250,000
right,
to open a franchise, plus sign up for a 3-year, 5-year triple net lease and have the space. I understand they've got to get to what you're saying about 100, 120, somewhere about that to break even.
Right, or a little less if they have a smaller square footage, correct. But okay. So the answer is depending on where they are, and the cost is really rent and staff. And we work very lean. We can work a whole center, especially at the beginning, they can work a whole center with one educator and some guides. We call them guides or animators. So it could really be, for this one, for example, we can run the whole center for less than $17,000 a month. And of course, you have to buy all the equipment up front, but everything is reusable. Right.
Right. But if I'm a franchisee,
right,
I've got to quit my job and I'm going to go put my hopes in MetaHumans.
Sure.
Right. When do I get paid?
Right.
Eventually, when am I going to be able to draw a salary? When you include the salary in that and the staff you've got to hire.
Right.
And obviously it's going to take a while to get up the membership. But once I'm there,
right.
This is their American dream. This
right,
is their
right.
dream.
Once you're there, then it's really the profit margin that increases. In this center, we can put 80 people at once. That's hundreds of members. We can probably do 300 to 400 members who would come once a day. And then there's also optimization of schedule that we can introduce to do only mornings or afternoon eventually. But what I'm saying is basically once you reach that break-even point, you have at least 2 or 3 times the number of members that you can introduce to your system. So there's a higher upper limit. So that's when you start really making money.
Before we run out of time, just hone in for me exactly again on the target market here, right? Because we looked at the competitive side. Are these your typical customers? Are you expecting them to be looking at this as an alternative to a Montessori school, an alternative to traditional schooling? When they're coming 5 days a week, is it expected? What's the sort of median number of days that the existing members are coming now? Because you can't survive on 70 people coming for $44 a week.
No.
Right.
No. Most people stay 2 to 3 days. There's also a logistical ramp up where some parents are adding. So
are those kids in school, right? Is this the market of the school is failing?
half and half. Half and half.
This is a solution for school, traditional school system failing certain kids.
When I was working on that problem slide, I realized something. After talking to 150, 200 parents, every parent has a different problem to solve. Some kids are on the spectrum, some kids have unique abilities, some kids were bullied, some kids are just excited about science, some they're artists, some they need time and flexibility for their training, sports training, music, and it's all over the place. There's really no pattern. What I can say is that a little less than half of our members are homeschoolers, and that the other are after schoolers. And it looks like the homeschooler community is really liking what we're offering because we're helping them with tutoring. We're helping them with social literacy, everything, yes. Yes, and we have potluck with the families. And we have, so it's also a community center.
All right, we're all set with questions? All right, thank you, Philippe.
Thank you.
All right, judges, just be sure to fill out your forms because our third and final company is coming up next. All right, please welcome Christina Drake and Kismet Technologies.
Then I need to do sound check real quick. Sound check real quick. And then do I need to, do you think set on? Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Christina Drake, and I'm the founder and CEO of Kismet Technologies. I'm excited to talk to you all tonight about NanoRAD, our innovation that harnesses the power of nanotechnology for safe, non-stop virus and bacteria protection. Unfortunately for our family last year, a loved one needed to go to the hospital for a medical procedure where she got a hospital-acquired infection. 1 week after this picture was taken, she passed away. The tragedy in these types of deaths is that they are completely preventable. Yet in the US, we buy and use more disinfectant than any other country in the world, and we have wide availability of antibiotics. Yet 1 in 25 patients in the US will get one of these preventable hospital-acquired infections, and it's completely unacceptable. That's why we developed NanoRAD. It has the strength of hydrogen peroxide in a safe, long-lasting coating. It's a solution for surfaces where our coatings and films provide long-term protection on surfaces against viruses and bacteria in a way that disinfectants and UV light simply cannot. It's also a solution for humans, where in medical devices, it provides long-lasting infection prevention in a way that antibiotics just simply cannot. And the core of our technology is a patent-pending innovation, a specialized nanoparticle, where in the presence of viruses and bacteria, it takes water and makes hydrogen peroxide. And so if you look here at the bottom right, you see a disease-causing bacteria. Within 15 minutes of contacting our product, it has died. And we have shown this to work in the real world, not just in a lab. So we did a 28-day pilot in a pediatric facility. We picked the grossest place you could have put our product, the floor behind the toilet. 28 days, one application. No bacteria survived on that surface. There is no technology in the world that can safely make that claim except NanoRAD. And when you look across the competitive landscape, it becomes obvious why. So when you're thinking about how do I prevent surface-acquired infections, what you really want to know in a disinfectant is, does it actually kill severe disease-causing viruses and bacteria? So on this chart, I call it hospital grade. And then the other thing is, off of one application or one dose, if you're talking about UV light, how long does it protect that surface for against those really nasty disease-causing germs? Most disinfectants and UV lights only work at the time of application. As soon as someone interacts with that surface and deposits a virus or bacteria, that surface has to be disinfected again, not with NanoRAD. NanoRAD offers hospital-grade disinfection for months on surfaces. And that's why we're poised to go after the infection control market, which in 2021 was valued at $29 billion. Our specific addressable market is the US healthcare market, which in that year was valued at $13 billion. Now, surface-acquired infections is a growing problem globally, so unfortunately by 2026, it's expected to hit $53 billion. What that tells you is our current solutions in disinfectants, UV lights, and overuse of antibiotics is not doing anything to stem this problem. How we're going to get NanoRAD into hospitals to help deal with this problem is by using a B2B product model where we're going to manufacture those specialized nanoparticles that make hydrogen peroxide. We're going to license our formulations for coatings and films to licensees who already sell into healthcare, take advantage of their existing sales structure and manufacturing infrastructure to get into hospitals. Now, we have to go through EPA registration, and hospitals can't fully utilize on every surface our product ahead of EPA registration. So our beachheads are actually in industries that don't require that, clean rooms, and cruise lines. And so we are right now working on pilots in those. And in our early sales model, we're actually going to take advantage of toll manufacturing to augment our manufacturing needs. And so in this model, we're able to rapidly scale through toll and licensing manufacturing and decrease our capital needs. Also, gaining traction with a disruptive technology requires you building trust within the industries that you're trying to secure your technology in. Right now, we're currently in pilots in healthcare and in clean rooms, and we're doing this to build our early product champions in those markets. The first adopters will be those pilots that we've converted into customers, giving us credibility in those markets. And then we're going to expand the customer base in a sphere around our first customers. So for example, we are doing a pilot in a clean room where in that geographic area, there are 14 other clean rooms there. So those would be our next targets, to get enough critical mass to build NanoRAD as best practice in certain industries. And we have the team to get us there with strong scientific, operational, and business expertise. My background is in material science and engineering, and I'm one of the inventors of NanoRAD. Sherry Constantini is our co-founder and president, and she has successfully started and led Avant Healthcare Professionals to an exit with Jackson Healthcare. Now, in 2015, that business was doing $23 million in revenue. She scaled it to $175 million when she left in 2021. Spence Lloyd is our CFO, and he was with Sherry during that high growth time at Avant. And he has also been with several highly successful high growth companies. Our revenue growth is split between Kismet Surfaces and Kismet Medical, which I'm going to explain a little bit more on the next slide. But in terms of Kismet Surfaces, that's a near-term opportunity, and we're looking at EPA registration in 2026. With this model, in 2027, we're looking at 8% market penetration in the cruise industry and 1% market penetration in hospitals and healthcare. In Kismet Medical, that's a longer time horizon that we're looking at. So an early revenue capture on that is based on 5% market capture of devices that could use our coating, and then applying a 1% royalty structure against that. Kismet Technologies is split based on the different regulatory pathways that our product needs to take. So we have Kismet Medical for our FDA products, and we have Kismet Surfaces for our EPA-approved products. And so we're in a unique position where there are two exits for this company, a near-term one under Kismet Surfaces and a longer-term one under Kismet Medical. Under Kismet Surfaces, we already have 2 agreements for evaluation of our product for licensing, and under Kismet Medical, we already have an agreement in place for a clinical study to evaluate a product, again, for licensing. We're currently in a $5 million seed raise for any of the investors in the room, 60% committed to date. Most of that goes to our EPA registration cost, and we plan on offsetting our product and scientific development with non-dilutive grant funding. To date, we have raised over $1 million in SAFEs and non-dilutive grant funding from the federal government, and we've been able to do a lot with that money, including starting on pilots, and several of which we're in now, manufacturing scale-up, expanding our technical and management team, and getting agreements into place. You have seen 2 great companies already present tonight. I didn't get to see it, so I'm jealous. But NanoRAD is going to disrupt several industries, save millions of lives, and forever change the way that the world disinfects. So remember that. Great. So thank you for your time tonight, and I'll open the floor for questions.
And I'll pass it on to my judges for Q&A.
I grabbed it from you, Richard.
That's right. Good.
So great presentation. I want to understand a little bit about what it is going to take to license this product, since that seemed to be key. Do you need to have the EPA registration? So just walk me through, what do you have to accomplish in order to be able to successfully license this product, and what conversations have you had to this date?
Yeah, so to sell ahead of EPA, so you all are probably familiar with regulatory agencies. To sell a product with a regulatory claim, you have to have registration. However, you can sell similar products that aren't seeking regulatory approval. And so when we talk to these companies, they're familiar with that. So there's 2 approaches. There's the early approach where we work on selling into industries like cruise lines and clean rooms that don't care about EPA registration, who are perfectly okay. As long as they know what our formulation is, they can see our white papers, they'll buy from us. But then, of course, the big money is made after EPA registration, because then that unlocks hospitals, right? So they're looking at, you know, that EPA registration date, and Sherry and I have had several meetings with the EPA. We do feel confident on that 2026 as the year that'll happen. Yeah.
Christine, is this on?
I can hear you.
All right, okay. Yeah, that's right. My voice is loud enough. Big thing in the news today, the last couple of weeks, is this, what, Candida, or whatever. How do you stand up to something like that?
So we are converting our lab so that we can actually bring in fungus, but our product should work against it at the proper dose, because the mechanism is hydrogen peroxide, which is efficacious against Candida auris.
So just, I mean, I have no clue what you're talking about in terms of bacteria and fungus and all this kind of, but if you're in 50% confident that you can beat this fungus that's traveling through hospitals and so forth in the United States right now, and I guess the pretty much the whole healthcare industry is really seriously concerned about how bad this can get, particularly for older people and people that are immunocompromised and so forth. I would have said, you know, back three years ago, you were in great shape, but there were a lot of companies that started and failed because they couldn't do it. They really just, it didn't really come together for them. How do you know you can take care of the viruses and the funguses that are out there? How do you get the confidence that you know that you're able to?
So one of the key distinguishers in our technology versus some of the other technologies that you mentioned is the nanoparticle never needs to come into contact with the bacteria or virus. And most pathogens, so fungus, mold, bacteria, viruses, actually have water with them. So when they land on a surface, they're already encapsulated in the thing that our nanoparticles convert into the kill mechanism. And hydrogen peroxide is very good at killing microbes. And so we need to test that. So I don't want to say 100% confidence because we haven't tested it yet, but I feel highly confident because of the mechanism of action of our, so I'll give you another example. Biofilms have plagued the implant industry forever. It's the main reason that you get an infection with an implant and have to take it out. Biofilms are hard to kill even with an antibiotic. We are 1,000 times more efficacious and potent than an antibiotic. And when we saw those results, we kind of realized that with almost any microbe that was susceptible to hydrogen peroxide, you got to do some engineering for the environment for that microbe, but you can probably get it just because of the kill mechanism.
Well, so when you start to talk about those kinds of applications, then you got all kinds of FDA chaos involved, is right? Is that something you think about? I mean, I see it, I guess, when you first came up and I had this idea of whatever this fungus is that's roaming through the hospitals right now, and I said, well, this could really be a great solution. It appears that the FDA is desperately searching for some kind of a solution here. When you toss hydrogen peroxide at something, I mean, the whole world can do that. Right, so is it your technique?
Because it makes it when it sees the pathogen. So it's not indiscriminately just making it. It's a,
okay.
I don't want to get too much into that, but basically it
right.
makes it on command when it comes there. It makes a lot of it in a high dose, encapsulating the pathogen, so fungus, bacteria, you know, whatever is landing on the surface. And then it shuts off when it's done. And so basically the entire disinfectant also in that process gets used up. So you don't have, in terms of safety, you don't have like hydrogen peroxide just kind of like swimming around on the surface.
Sure, no, yeah.
But so from a safety point of view, we feel that our data has shown it's extremely safe around normotypic cells. So from an FDA point of view, and we actually do have a former drug reviewer from the FDA on staff. He's our engineering director. But you know what they look at when they review something like this for something like an implant or you know any kind of drug, the main thing is safety.
Right.
And so from a safety standpoint, our material is inert if there's no pathogen present.
Really? Wow.
And so it makes it very, so we've done testing on skin and eye cells. It actually, in some instances, improves cell viability above the control. So it's highly unusual for something to be a potent antimicrobial, but to also be that safe for normotypic cells. So we have, in terms of like what the FDA is going to try and dink us on, we have high confidence that we're going to be able to pass the safety bar with them.
So are you taking the easy way out and chasing cruise lines and so forth when you can really be effective?
So part of that is because of the number of devices we could impact in the medical space. And you know, Sherry's background is in nursing, so I don't know, what did we spend, like 2 months looking at like every possible scenario, right? So you have so many different, and this isn't all of them, this is just to give you a flavor of all the devices, right? So the model that we're looking at and testing right now on the medical side is a licensing model where basically the company takes on the FDA application.
Right.
We put together like a drug material file that they can reference at the FDA, but we don't own the application. The risk is on their side. So for us to have done that for all those different devices, like if we had taken it on and decided to build it ourselves, the medical side would have been much more expensive for us to do.
Sure, if you were going to do it for every one of those
Mm-hmm.
products and so forth. But the process still has to go on, right? So
Yes.
if we were doing some kind of an implant and I wanted to use your particular product or solution, I'd still have to get the FDA to specifically approve that.
And we would partner with you on the clinical study
Okay.
for that, yeah, to
Appreciate
make sure that you were successful in that. But the burden would be on the company, because also the FDA wouldn't allow us, if we don't make the device, to hold the
Right.
registration because we can't handle recalls from the FDA.
Got it.
If the device gets recalled.
Okay.
So for us, it allows us to, so right now we have one agreement in place and we're working on another one, but this will allow us to test that model to make sure that we're correct on how the FDA would be, and basically make sure that that model does work
Got it.
before we go full blown on that.
Appreciate it. Nice job. Appreciate it. Thank you.
A quick question. Great presentation. Congrats on the success you guys have had so far. I think there's a big application here. One of the slides though that still has a lot of question marks in my head is the competitive landscape, right? And how much you guys have spent on that. There's a version there that had the 3M logo on it, etc. Between DuPont and 3M and some of these big companies, I'm surprised nobody else is in somewhere trending towards the top right, even if not all the way up at the top right.
So maybe the key is performance rankings based on EPA regulatory guidelines. So those companies might have products that are self-cleaning or self-sanitizing, but they don't actually meet the threshold of regulatory requirement through the EPA. That's why they're not on this chart.
Okay.
Yeah. UV lights also don't quite make it into there, but I guess there's sort of confusion between FDA and EPA, so we took a pass on that and we're just like, well, we'll throw like UV lights in there because they kind of are being used in hospitals. But from a chemical and material point of view, those products that have nanosilver in them do not qualify as a residual disinfectant. So they're not on the, so that's why you don't see hospitals blanketing everything with nanocopper, and I think at one point they maybe tried, but nanocopper and nanosilver because it doesn't. So right now, the only products that are registered with the EPA have copper and silver in them, and they basically work at the same level as like a method disinfectant, just barely above the threshold of sanitizing. So if you're a hospital and you're worried about MRSA, norovirus, C. diff, that's not what you want to use for that. Yeah.
So in hospitals today, are they pretty much only using the
so we gave you so Virox, Sanhypercide, Oxivir are the main ones that they use. Cavicide, so a lot of things with the word side or oxy in it, because hydrogen peroxide is highly efficacious against many pathogens. So an accelerated hydrogen peroxide is sort of the preferred disinfectant if you're trying to deal like with a C. diff. If you're trying to if you have a confirmed case of C. diff, you're going to use something like an accelerated hydrogen peroxide or a two-step bleach solution. Yeah.
And so I'd have to assume that those companies they would go down fighting once you do get your EPA registration. So what's your go-to market strategy, and is that raise enough to kind of?
So what's interesting, Microban actually did have a product that was a little bit higher up in the 24-hour space. It was called Sani PDI. And PDI had licensed it, and PDI reached out to us 2 years ago, actually, to kind of try and figure it out. But I think we were too far away for EPA registration. They just pulled it off the market because really you have to get above the line, right? So it's really, and basically what we've learned is all of these technologies are just variations on a theme. They're all nanosilver, they're all quartz. They might have copper in that, or they might have like some sort of engineered polymer that like pokes a bacteria. What's different about what we're doing is we in situ make a highly efficient, highly potent disinfectant on demand when the pathogen presents to it. And we had good intuition at the beginning of the COVID pandemic how to get a material to do that. And it was Kismet, actually, that it worked out the first time that we did it. In terms of capital, because we invented the material, we knew a lot about the synthesis, so we worked from the beginning to figure out how to scale the synthesis in a way that was cost effective. So we've already opened our manufacturing facility, and in about the next month, they're gonna do our first large scale synthesis run. So we have a really good handle too on the cost. And so for us, in terms of capital needs, we know what we need to make the product. And we've already reached out to toll manufacturers to figure out, what are they going to need from us to be able to make our product. The toll manufacturer already has EPA approval for another company in the area for an accelerated hydrogen peroxide. So I feel like we know pretty good on the capital cost, but in case we're wrong, we do also have a line of credit, 1.5 million, in case we need backup.
From SVB?
No, it is much more secure than that. Much more secure.
All right, so new question based on what you're just saying. How convinced are you that your manufacturing process can scale? Any concerns about having to have the nanoparticles with monodispersed or scaling to be able to have the same efficacy?
Nope. So we have already gone up to 10 gallons, and we have done crazy stuff. I mean, we've basically pressure tested the synthesis, 100 different ways. So talk about variations on a theme. I think our engineers are really tired of, okay, now go do it this way, but just tweak this one thing, because we've been doing that, June through December of last year. But we feel highly confident, and so we have now a pending patent on the improved manufacturing that makes it scalable and economical.
And then I'd like to dive into the 83 million in sales in 2027 post EPA, and then understand that compared to the SAM and TAM.
Oh, there it is.
So 83 million plus whatever you're going to do on the Kismet Medical from a royalty perspective. Can you go back to 83 million versus what you showed on that? So is that because the 13 billion is lots of wipes and lots of chemicals and mops and buckets?
Yep.
So I'm trying to draw the connections from.
Okay, so also one of the things and I didn't bring this up because let me go back. So one of the things you'll notice is we have a film and we have a coating. The coating is for traditional surfaces that you would expect someone to use a wipe on to try and disinfect that. The film we had originally made thinking it was for that, and what we've discovered is it works on curtains, it works on patient tables, it works on mattresses, it works on all of those soft surfaces that hospitals have never been able to disinfect. So we're actually presenting this summer at the Association for Professionals in Infection Control, and we're likely going to have a hospital presenting with us. So that growth, you're decreasing the amount of disinfectant overall you need to use, but we're increasing the scale at which you can keep surfaces under an infection control guideline that hospitals haven't had to date.
So
is on the hospitality industry, so think hotels an application for that?
Potentially, but the economic pressure on them is not the same as hospitals.
Yeah. It's not the same as a cruise ship with a norovirus outbreak or where that could be.
Or clean rooms where if they lose an entire lot of something, right? So there's the economic value if they are wrong on their infection control practice is different in the industries we've targeted.
So let me ask the question, how does 83 million grow to 800 million based on that multi-billion dollar, $13 billion?
So honestly, on this, we think that an exit's possible within 5 years on surfaces just based on interest in the company.
Okay.
So we think that, okay, so right, it's a discriminating technology. We've had Reckitt Benckiser reach out to us. We have like 3M and, we monitor our website, right? So we know that they're looking, we know that they're trying to watch what we're doing. So I think that for companies that are looking to acquire Kismet surfaces, it's not just about market share gain, it's what they're gonna lose if another company acquires the technology for surfaces and coating.
Well, again, that's my question. So 83 million, what would be the multiple? What would be the comp? What would be, it's probably gonna be a strategic, they've got FOMO and they don't wanna lose their market share. What's that value, and why are they scared of you?
Because we have discriminating tech that's really hard to copy, and that's patent protected. And the manufacturing, we have patent protection on that. We also have trade secret on it. That's why we're keeping the manufacturing in-house, because you can go and look at our patents and copy it. It's gonna be about 1,000, 10,000 times more expensive to make the same nanoparticle if you don't know what we figured out, you know. So we spent a lot of time on the engineering side to make it cheap. So I think that know-how to make it cheap enough to make it more like a commodity chemical and not a high-end chemical is where the value actually comes in. If you control that for the market and you control all the coatings for hospitals, basically until you're unseated by another technology, this is it. And so that's how we view the value for Kismet.
Thank you so much, Christina.
All right.
And Kismet Technologies. All right. Now we're going to give the time our judges to fill out their cards, head over for deliberation, and now we're going to give the time to all of you to vote for your favorite one that you saw today. While they'll be deliberating, we're going to have Josh come up with Sachin on the screen to be doing their interview. Yes, I will go to the QR code so you guys can vote. So you should be able to scan this with your phones. And if you need to use the restroom, women's is that way out the door, men's is this way.
All right. Everyone have a chance to vote? All right, great. I think we're going to get my fellow alumni board member, Crummer alumni board member Sachin Jaitley up on the screen here. While that's happening, there's been, oh, there he is. Hey, Sachin, how's it going, man? I don't know.
It's going well. How about yourself?
There's been we've been live streaming this, so we've got people watching around the world. Sachin's been gracious enough to host our live stream. He's got a really interesting and rich history with the competition. I believe Sachin was the first winner of the competition along with his partner Diaz, who's on the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship board. When we opened the competition up beyond just students. So for a few years, it was all about our students here at Rollins and Crummer. And then we said, we're going to open it up to alums. Now it's open up to the entire Central Florida community. But Sachin was our first alumnus to win in 2012. And so Sachin, welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing a little bit with us. Wanted to start off. What did you think of the pitches tonight?
So first off, by the way, can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yes,
you can. All right, terrific.
Sorry. I feel like I'm the only one you can hear.
I'm the only. Yeah, I can only see you, Josh. So first up, I just want to congratulate the entrepreneurs for getting on stage, having the courage and conviction to share their ideas and to build their companies. Being a young entrepreneur is a very lonely place with a lot of rejection. So I just want to congratulate all of them for getting up there and just showing their passions, and it came across very much so. The second thing, to answer your question, Josh, these companies are impressive. I mean, the traction and momentum that they've been able to create in a very short amount of time is well beyond, I think, what we experienced maybe a decade ago. Right. When I was a part of the competition, it was much more of an incubation phase or a seed stage phase of companies. Some of these companies, I was, as they were speaking, I was going on their websites. I was listening to what kind of sales traction they had, what kind of product traction they had, and they're real companies, right? These are obviously early stage companies, but they're building something. And I'm impressed by the level of competitiveness with the applicant pool. I'm impressed with the diversification that they have in industry, very different industries that all three of these companies are going after. And I'm very impressed with the traction that they've been able to achieve so far. And so that's definitely my initial impression.
Awesome. When we were talking about, I'd like to talk a little bit about your experience in the competition, but I did want to acknowledge among the many wonderful folks we've got here tonight. We have last year's winner, William Ostrich in the back there. And we have our very last student winner, Ritu Jailhan, who won in 2011 and went on to do amazing things as well. But since we were talking about you guys winning the competition back in 2012 with Flex Receipts, which is now Flex Engaged, still a local company. Tell us a little bit about what winning meant for you guys, and the funding that came with that, and then some of the domino effects that fell after the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So the capital is important, and as you are an early stage entrepreneur going out and you are fundraising, once again, you get told no a lot, and you have to have thick skin. And so the capital is important and in some regards critical for you to be able to continue building, hiring, selling your product. But that's not really, I would say, the most important thing as a part of this competition. The validation that comes from the school and from winning this competition and what you can do with that validation, I think is even more valuable. As you probably saw in the presentations, these teams are raising low seven-figure amounts, right? 1 million here, a couple million there. So the capital, albeit valuable and important, is probably going to be a small piece of the overall amount of capital that they ultimately raise. What they're able to achieve in this moment, for the winners that are able to make it to the end, are the validation. And these small wins are incredibly important. You're able to parlay them into bigger opportunities for you. And I'll give you some examples, in particular for us, as you were asking. So after we won, we were able not only to stop and smell the roses as a team and enjoy the moment, but we're also able to share that as we were recruiting new team members. Right? So we won the Crummer competition, and this is not just validation from me saying it, but this is validation from the school saying it. And so, Mr. and Mrs. Recruitee, please consider us, right, to join our team and on the journey, enjoy the journey with us. So, and as well as developing proof of concept on the sales side, right? So as you are going out, and in some regards, you have to give away your product for free. You have to discount heavily to get your initial clients. Once again, these are elements of external validation that you can bring to those potential clients as well. So it's a badge of honor. There's capital there, and those in-kind services, all of which are valuable and mean something. But I think just having that external validation, having an additional W that you can point to, I think those are going to be dividends that will pay out over time.
Excellent, excellent. And I know you hired a couple of Rollins and Crummer alums, and we appreciate that. For any of those companies out here that are looking to hire, Renee and our career services team is here to talk to you if you're looking for top talent that we produce here at Rollins College. So Sachin, obviously you've done a lot of things in the past. I guess it's 11 years now. Tell us what you're up to today. You're up to some really interesting stuff. I'm sure everyone would love to hear about it.
Sure. Happy to do that. So the first half of my career was in finance. I was effectively going down the CFO track, and somewhere in the middle point of my career is when I started my first startup, Flex Receipts, and participated in the venture plan competition. So for the next decade of my career, I was really in tech. So I was a founder and operator of tech companies. More recently, in the last few years, at last, I guess, 5 years now, since 2017, I've joined the other side of the table. So I've become a VC now, venture capital. So I'm an investor in early stage tech companies. And so the beauty of this is now I've married kind of that first half of my career in finance with the second half of my career in tech. And today I'm an investor in early stage tech companies, and more particularly in the sector of Web3. So think of everything blockchain, think of everything cryptocurrency, think of everything touching also around artificial intelligence, AI. These sectors are kind of building out the next version of the internet. So we have, my firm has now raised and invested around $400 million across 80 companies. We're launching our next fund and targeting an incremental, hopefully $400 to $500 million in capital to build out another portfolio of 50 companies. So if there are, obviously we're in the right forum. If there are entrepreneurs out there looking for capital, feel free, absolutely, to come and speak to me. And you can have my contact information, I'm sure, from any of the folks, Josh included, that can help put you in touch with me. So we are looking to build out the next generation of entrepreneurs. And also what I'll just add is, I'm having the most fun I've had in my career. This is just an amazing privilege that I have to be speaking with entrepreneurs that are solving huge problems and being on their journey with them. So it's very exciting.
Excellent. And I think we've got time for at least one more question. So you're investing in all these companies. It's Web3, it's AI. It's really exciting stuff. What's the coolest thing that you've invested in, or the thing that you see coming on the horizon through these innovative technologies?
Oh, wow. You're asking me about my favorite child right now. This is a tough one. Well, I'll just point to something that's because it's provocative. I'll just point to it, and that's the metaverse. All right. So people think the metaverse is something that is very futuristic or very exotic, and where you need a full headset and you have to have joysticks and you have to be completely immersed into something. That's not exactly what the metaverse is. The metaverse can be accessed from your phone or your computer or your tablet, or it could be having the headset on if you so choose to. But what the metaverse is going to be is a 3D interactive environment. And so, in the early 2000s, a website was, even at that time, somewhat controversial. Should you spend money on a website? Why do you need one? Obviously, that proved to be okay. And around 2010, it was mobile apps. Why do I need a mobile app? And now we're on the precipice of what I'm noticing a stampede to build out different metaverses. So we've invested in a metaverse company. It's called Improbable. And what they're doing is that they're building a development layer for the metaverse. So what I mean by that is they're enabling KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering policies to access the metaverse. They're developing digital wallets for the metaverse. They're developing what's called interoperability, or the ability to move assets from one metaverse to another metaverse. So this is a foundational development layer that many different metaverses can build on top of. And so to me, it's an exciting play that They just raised $150 million for an early stage company, which is, as you can imagine, an outsized amount of capital that the company was they were able to successfully raise. We were one of the co-leads along some other firms. So this is an area of interest and excitement. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the journey goes.
Awesome. And I think our judges are still ferociously debating back there who's going to win among the competition we've seen tonight. We've got our entrepreneurs who are still here in the audience, and we've got some past winners here. What advice would you have? All of them are going to go out and try to raise money. What advice would you have for them from your new seat on the other side of the table as an investor?
Sure. No, happy to give you some ideas there. So there's probably three things I'll point to. Number one is 100% follow your passion. Don't surrender it. Have conviction. Life is much more fulfilling when you're going after your passion than not. So make sure that the startup and the idea and the company that you're with, you believe in, right? You're not just clocking in, clocking out. That's number one. Number two is that be very comfortable making decisions with impartial data, right? You will never have a full data set. Even rocket scientists have to make assumptions. So just get comfortable with it. And over time, there will be a judgment call around how much data is good enough to have. And that's just going to have to come with experience, but just know that's going to be the par for the course, especially in the startup world where you have limited resources and limited time. And the third thing, kind of related, is around having a sense of urgency. So an adherence to timeline. When you set a goal and a time frame and a timeline, do whatever you can to make sure that is you not only commit to it, but you hit it. Missing timelines and not having a sense of urgency will paralyze a company. So I think those to me have been some philosophies that I've taken into my career that have helped me, guide me as a kind of a compass throughout being in different environments, both challenging and when we're having fun on both sides. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, Sachin, thanks. That's been great. Really appreciate you sharing some insights with us, a little bit about your stories of past winner, and what you're up to now. So thank you for joining us. Are you up in New York today?
I am. Yes, okay. In the beautiful neighborhood of Chelsea in Manhattan, if you guys are familiar.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Again, welcome, and thank you for joining us, everybody live on Zoom. I'm pretty sure those judges are going to be done here in a minute. I would encourage none of you to leave or move or do anything. Sit and talk amongst yourselves because it's going to be really exciting when we come back and announce the winners. So hang tight, and we'll be right back with you. All right, everybody. Our judges are back. They'll be coming in right now. And so if you guys could all take your seats, we will go ahead and announce the winners.
And I was gonna Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're near the end here. The judges have deliberated. I'm going to have a person who worked at the center for a very long time, who knows this process well, read off the names to us. Gabby Fulner, welcome back to the stage.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Gabby Fulner. I am an alum of both Rollins and Crummer, and I had the pleasure of working for the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship for about 3 years. So it's great to be back. It was a wonderful evening. I'm now an attorney at the law firm of Losi LLC, so I only left to attend law school, and very happy to be back. But first, I want to congratulate all the contestants tonight. You all did a phenomenal job. This was a wonderful evening. I would like to thank our judges. It's good to see some familiar faces here that have been back year after year, so thank you for your dedication to Crummer and to this competition. Thank you to all of the supporters in the audience and all of the volunteers and everyone who's been involved in the process. It really does take a village, and I know I speak for Dr. Pete and the Center for Advanced Entrepreneurship and all of Crummer in thanking you all for being here tonight. So without further ado, in third place, we have MetaHumans. Let's give him another round of applause. All right, and in second place, we have Soarce. Great job. And in first place, and our fan favorite, we have Kismet. Awesome job, everyone. Round of applause all around. Dr.
All right.
Pete, anything else?
That concludes tonight. Pictures, please come up with the big checks and the companies, and enjoy the rest of the night. We have food out here. Get to know one another. Thank you so much.